The Endless Summer is one of the most famous documentaries of all time. And even if you've never heard of it, you've definitely seen its iconic poster, which is so well known it's achieved a life all its own. But despite that, the plot is actually a rather simple one, with documentary filmmaker Bruce Brown following two surfers as they travel all over the world looking for the perfect wave. And though that may not sound like much, the results ended up showing exactly why surfing culture appeals to so many people. And today, I'd like to briefly go over the Endless Summer and explore what made it so revolutionary in its day. And there will be minor spoilers ahead, so in case you'd like to check it out for yourself first and don't want to know how it ends, you should probably remain on the lookout. Okay, so to start with a little background first, Bruce Brown was an avid surfer in the 1950s who found he had a gift for photography. So by the end of the decade, he had started making entire films, usually based around surfing, and most of them were mildly successful. But feeling he could create something special if he had more time and a bigger budget, he conceived of the idea of surfers traveling around the world with the changing seasons to avoid the inhospitable climate of winter, thus allowing for a titular endless summer. So, with this premise to go on, and two surfers ready and willing to accommodate him, they set out on a 4-month excursion to some of the warmest places on Earth, trying to see which spots hid the most ideal waves a surfer could ask for. Now, while the documentary may seem a little basic by today's standards, in 1966 people had never seen anything like it before, and actually inspired many aspects of both documentaries and surfing culture that most take for granted today. Seeing two normal people go to such places as Africa, Polynesia, and Australia simply to surf, all the while showing off not only the exotic landscapes and animals, but people of so many different cultures and how well they get along with the surfers, were all extremely rare in the 1960s. Because keep in mind that these were in the days before the internet, where anybody can look up even the most remote places on Earth with their cell phone in an instant if they wish. This was probably the first time many people had such an intimate look at some of these places and people abroad, to the point that it even popularized Cape St. Francis in South Africa as one of the world's most popular surfing spots, as nobody had even heard of it previously. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Now, apart from what it shows, there's also how it goes about presenting it all as well. Because before the Endless Summer, most documentaries were narrated in a very straightforward manner, usually spoken in a very neutral tone and always getting right to the point. Think of any World War II documentary made during the 40s, and that pretty much sums up what the narration was generally like. After all, a documentary is meant to inform and educate people, and the best way to do that is to get straight to the point. But The Endless Summer took a completely different approach. Instead of being very formal and to the point, Bruce Brown narrates the film in a very casual way, always explaining what's going on, but often injecting humor into it, coming across as both sarcastic and very laid back, as befitting a documentary made by a surfer. And once again, such a narration in a documentary was unheard of back then, and is even something of a rarity nowadays. But it nonetheless helped contribute to its mass appeal, as that kind of narration spoke directly to the kind of people it was made for. And speaking of that, This documentary's overall contributions to surfing culture simply cannot be overstated. Such things as surfers traveling abroad, looking for uncrowded beaches, and trying to find the perfect wave were all things that were popularized by their portrayal here and hadn't really been a thing beforehand. It even helped popularize surfing outside of California and even the whole country. Frankly, it might even be the reason the sport is as popular as it is today. Because sure, throughout the late 1950s and early 60s, surfing culture had definitely been on the rise. The concept of the beach bum going as far back as at least 1959. But this documentary is what made the sport and lifestyle reach people on a whole other level. Because throughout Brown's film, we see two ordinary men who simply want to live their passions of riding the wave, and set out to achieve this by going someplace where it's always summer to ride a wave that will never break under them. It sums up everything most associate with surfing and the feelings it evokes, which is why it not only went on to define many aspects of the sport and culture, but still remains one of the most popular representations of it ever. And it was for a similar reason that its iconic poster has become so famous even independently of it. Because just by looking at it, you can feel exactly what this documentary is all about. It effortlessly evokes the feeling of a truly endless summer. A life of just relaxing on a beach without a care in the world. The magic of a summer's day as the waves crash and the wind blows, turning to dusk and the sky changes to reds and pinks enveloping everything, lending the beach an even more mythical quality as the shadows start stretching long over the sand. To put it another way, any feeling that the idea of the beach, the ocean, or surfing is somehow enveloped in that poster. And considering the almost mysterious quality it evokes, it's really no wonder why many went to see the documentary based off it alone, or why it's still considered one of the most famous in the history of film. Because very rarely has a poster ever been able to sum up everything that a movie represents so well, to the point that it's been said to do something to people just by looking at it. To put it all simply, The Endless Summer may be pretty simple in nature, but everything it does perfectly captures the feelings behind the life of a surfer. There is nothing about the film, its poster included, that doesn't in some way tie back to that, and in the process could make even the greatest hydrophobe feel nostalgic and longing for the beach. It shows exactly why that kind of sport and life is appealing to people, to the point that it even inspired many to take up the lifestyle after its release. It understands not only its audience, but what everybody loves about the beach as well, to the point that even its name perfectly embodies the feelings I was just describing. In the end, one can safely say that if there was ever a film of any kind that truly represented everything that summer evokes and feels like, this would be it. Alright, that's everything I've got on that. So now I'd like to hear from all of you. Do you believe The Endless Summer deserved its distinction as one of the best documentaries ever made? Or do you think there are others out there more deserving of the title? Please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And please note that you don't have to agree with any of the more subjective portions of this video. You are entitled to your own opinion and can feel about The Endless Summer any way you want to, and I nor anybody else can tell you you're wrong. And thank you all for watching. It is all really appreciated, and I hope to see you all next time.